Hi everyone, welcome to today's lesson. Let's go ahead and get started with today's lesson objective. So today we will classify two-dimensional figures based on the presence or absence of parallel or perpendicular lines and the presence or absence of certain types of angles. So basically we're going to figure out, does this shape have parallel or perpendicular lines, or does the shape have right, acute, or obtuse angles? Okay. So let's go over what our success criteria is for today. We have two. So the first one is I can determine if a shape has parallel or perpendicular lines. And then our second one is I can determine if a shape has right, acute, or obtuse angles. All right. Now, let's go over some of our vocabulary words. So, a right angle is an angle that has 90 degrees, or it kind of looks like a square corner, like a corner angle. So, that is a right angle. Now, if we go to an obtuse angle is any angle that is larger than 80 degrees. And then we have an acute angle. So an acute angle is an angle that is less than 90 degrees. Okay, let's go ahead and look at our lines. So we have parallel lines, and I just remember parallel lines as like my two L's right there in the middle. And they're two lines that are never going to meet. They're just going to keep going on forever, but they're never ever going to touch. Now, that is different from a perpendicular lines. They are two lines that intersect and form exactly a 90-degree angle at the intersection. So where they meet, it is going to be 90 degrees. Those are perpendicular lines. All right. Now we went over our vocabulary. Let's go ahead and look at this shape. So over here, I have a shape. This is called a pentagon. It's called a pentagon because it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides. And we're going to go ahead and answer these questions and see if we can determine if it has perpendicular lines or parallel lines, or if it has acute, right, or obtuse angles. So let's look at number 1. So does this shape have perpendicular lines? So let's look at the shape and see if it has perpendicular lines. Remember, perpendicular lines means that there are two lines that intersect and form a 90-degree angle. So if we look over here, I have this line here and I have this line here. Now, if they were to go on forever, those two line segments, we would get a 90-degree angle, right? So we do have perpendicular lines. We have one there, and then we have a second set right over here. These are perpendicular lines because they meet and they form a 90-degree angle. So the answer is yes, they do. All right, now let's go on to number 2. So number 2 is asking me, does the shape have parallel lines? So remember, these are two lines that are going to keep going on forever, but they're never going to meet. So I can see over here that I have this line over here, and then this line over here intersects, but if we go across from it, we have another line. And if we extend them out, those lines are going to go on forever, and they are never, ever going to meet. They're parallel. So yes, the shape does have parallel lines. Okay, now let's go ahead and look at our next one. Does this shape have acute angles? So that means angles that are less than 90 degrees. So 90 degrees is kind of making that L, it's making that corner. So we're looking for something smaller than that. So let's look at our angles. So I know over here that these are two right angles, right? Let me change the color. These are both right angles. So that's not less than 90 degrees. That is actually exactly 90 degrees. So those aren't acute. I'm looking at this angle right here. Now that looks like, okay, that looks like it's going to be more than 90 degrees. That's an obtuse angle. This one also looks like it's more than 90 degrees, and so does that one. So all three of these angles are larger than 90 degrees. So no, there are no acute angles on this shape. Now let's go ahead and see, does this shape have right angles? Now this shape does have perpendicular lines, which means it does need to have right angles. So if I look over here at this corner, that's a 90-degree angle, and this is a 90-degree angle. So yes, there are 90-degree angles. I'm going to look down Y. So yes. And then our last question is, does this shape have obtuse angles? So obtuse angles are angles that are larger than 90 degrees. So I know that this is a 90-degree angle right over here, right? And that one's also a 90-degree angle, so those aren't obtuse. But if I look at my other three angles, those are all larger than 90 degrees. So yes, the shape does have 90 degrees. Or I'm sorry, does have obtuse angles. Okay, so we answered our question. So we looked at our shape, and we kind of have to make some observations and see if we can see these lines or these angles. All right, let's go ahead and review our lesson objective. So our lesson objective for today is today we classified, this should be in the past tense, classified, there we go, two-dimensional figures based on the presence or absence of parallel or perpendicular lines or the presence or absence of certain types of angles. All right, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.